Listen up, sponsored and supported Community Radio 44523-8989. This is WRFG Atlanta, also on the World Wide Web, WRFG.org, www.wrfg.org. Call if you are really impressed with the station and impressed with some of the programming we have here and impressed with some of our in-studio guests who are really telling us like it is when it comes to really reading the insightfulness of our spitefulness. We have to say it like that because there are those of us who just refuse to call to give love and appreciation to this wonderful, powerful medium. Community radio is providing an offering of so much, in these times. And I could ask our guests, about these times as we talk about these times. What do you see in that there is so much that is happening? In that there's this is the ending of a cycle, and the cycle is really an indication of what we already have been taught about by many who came before us. This is not new. We didn't run up here and realize we're here. There's a lot of those who have done so much work, as ancestors, and those who provide us all these workshops and lectures and presentations to say that we are going to have this very experience. What do you see as what's going on with the world relative to the fact that there's a lot going on in terms of the earth, where we know that BP in the Gulf of Mexico, where you have this spill that's continuing, and what is it that we can attribute that to? Is it part of a sign of what we know we are to experience as we end the cycle?
Well, the thing about the cycle is that I remember going back with Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He says Earth renews history every 25,000 years. Even he knew that things were coming up on changes, and the things that we're experiencing today is all part of the awakening for people to catch these little red flags, know that something's happening. The Gulf spill, the Haiti incident, all these different things are just signs for that people know that the time that we're living in, we're getting ready to go into a shift, that the change is getting ready to take place. And you hear everyone talk about the 2012. And the thing about 2012, interestingly enough, is that we set that date as the particular time, but I heard you mention before something about the Gregorian calendar. And the original Gregorian calendar only had 10 months. Did not have 12 months. The calendar that we have today was adjusted to be a 12-month calendar through Julius and Augustus Caesar.
Yeah, July and August. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So we know that the time is that we don't know exactly when is 2012.
If we're calculating according to the Gregorian calendar.
Right.
But we don't do the long count and understand that.
Right.
So we have to really understand what the long count is. And the only way you can do that is through the consistency of moon cycles
and how things flow. So we don't want to get caught up on that particular date, thinking that when that day happens,
everything's going to be
everything's going to
target dates. It's
so
an illusion because it's happening as we speak.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're in it.
Right, we're already we're in it. We've been in it for a while. So, and you'll see within the next 6 months or so, you're going to watch this technology start to really mess up. Technology is going to start to failing, and that's why we're trying to encourage people that don't depend upon like your cell phones. Try to learn how to communicate mentally because we can. We can do this here.
We do, right?
Yeah, we do it all the time. So we got to perfect this here to the point where if you need me at a moment's notice, thought travels like that.
Right.
And so faster than a phone can travel or a phone line. So we learn to perfect these things. We'll be able to communicate with each other. We know how to, when the time comes, when we get ready to make whatever move we have to make, we do it like the Mayans did in other cultures where we will be able to come together and make that shift. And
the shift happens.
And shift will happen. And the shift will happen as you see.
And it's happening.
Yes.
And I think that also with the Mayans, if you want to use them as a reference point, showed us because Maya means illusion.
Yeah.
And that that the illusion was that they were that which came and left what they said mysteriously, or because previous them were the Olmecs,
yes,
which really provided us, with the Mayans to draw off some of the detractors who were attempting to offset some of the things that were happening in their heyday. And then we look at what we have now, we have to appreciate the fact that returning to ourselves and returning to our original knowing of our institutionalized implementation of life, not just geographically and planetarily, but galactically and cosmically,
Yes.
which is really more of who we are than what we claim to be in terms of trying to tie ourselves to any landmass.
Of course.
Because, we got here when everything was here, and we just chose out parts of it for ourselves.
That's
and,
all. Just did what we did, and couldn't call it a day.
but everywhere, because the landmass was full into total. It wasn't just broken up and carved out into different imaginary borderlines.
Yes.
Which now also is trying to put us in timelines, like time zones,
exactly.
which is another illusion. Because there's only one planet and it's spinning on one axis, and
but one sun, one moon, everything is just. It's interesting because, like in China, they don't have time. They like say, time is time. Like if it's 5 o'clock in the morning, it's across the country. It's 5 o'clock. Whether the sun is high in the sky, whatever it is, they don't deal with the illusion of daylight savings time and this time and that time. They
send the clock back, send it forward, and try to keep up with the industry.
Right, exactly.
That's all it is. Daylight savings for what? The bank savings and loans.
to allow them to have the time to do what they got to do.
Well, yeah, and that's good because we have an event that's coming up. Speaking of that, there's an event that's happening this weekend. Strong begin. That is speaking directly to that. It's talking about, the day at a time, which we have annually. Now that, here since 2005, the Global Peace Through Culture Day. And that is speaking about the ending of the 13 moon cycle or calendar to begin a new one. The day at a time is the 365th day out of a 364 perfect day, which is 7 times 4, which is
52 weeks in a year, 7 months. We know how to, math don't lie. Numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie. So in the 13 moon calendar, as which I have been espousing for some years now, allows us to have one day that we can call a free day, a day that we can now speak to some of the things that we have to, and that heal, forgive. And do some real inner work, and then also bring out some of the artistry as you pick about the gifts that people have and the talents. And there's going to be an event happening here in Atlantis that will help do that. And there's going to be a yoga retreat, Kundalini yoga retreat, hosted by our sister Tassili Ma'at. And also co-hosted or presentation being done by Brother King Esnab, who called a little while ago, who's going to be doing the piece on the natural time and the galactic signatures and what it means to understand the significance of the Olmec presence, as I was just mentioned or alluded to a little while ago, because that's really what we talk about in terms of coming back to the science that that y'all exemplify, the science of telepathy, telepathic knowing, telepathic communication, because once we get remote viewing, right? Because that's what we did all along. We've been shut down, so now we become robots, and now we find ourselves clocking ourselves and locking ourselves into energy that linearly puts us into a death, because of course it's so just between 2 points is a straight line.
Of course. And
if we live a linear living a pattern, we're going to die, but if we live a cyclic nature, we can never die, because immortality is our birthright, because we're constantly going back and returning as the earth is round.
It never ends.
Never ends. Let's see what Brother Epsnab is talking about, because I know that they're preparing for this event, and as I am attempting to try to get out of here and go to Canada for an event that's happening in Vancouver, which is the conference, speaking to the same issues surrounding where the Earth is and where the galaxy is and what the cosmos is. But King Esnab, Shikhan El Rey, is of the Olmec Empire, who is going to be gracing us with his wisdom surrounding the Olmec presence that relates to the 13 moon 28-day calendar, and talks about what was the impetus for that as it relates to the Mayans or Mayans. And we're going to bring him on, and I know you're going to hear his voice, and you're going to maybe y'all going to jump in and say, hey, we know who he is, but we'd like to have him come on and speak with us. Brother King Esnab, are you there?
Yeah, Hotep, Baba.
Hotep, how you doing, brother?
Wonderful.
Great. Thanks for joining us. And you have me just alluding to some of the things. I got some Olmec seers in the house, so be careful what you think.
Okay.
No worries, brother. No worries.
They're tapped in strong, and they're doing some strong work in the community, and they can truly, tell us about ourselves that we may be suppressing or repressing. But I know you're preparing for this strong end, what's going to be a magnificent, powerful presentation on the Olmec presence that we really rare as in RARE, rarely get. And share a little bit about what you are going to be sharing this week, strong end at the Day Out of Time Global Peace Through Culture event.
Well, I'm going to begin with the purpose of natural time and just dealing with the cosmic aspect of things and where we are in terms of our evolution. One with the dimensional shift, as y'all are speaking of, and the genetic shift, which is actually happening within us as well. So coming to the end of a cycle is vitally important to understand and understand as well where you're going, where you are, and what you are to be connected to as you talk about false time and the 1260 artificial time, which has thrown a lot of things off for us, off of the synchronometer. So we have to pretty much become realigned and calibrated to natural time again and be able to time travel as we once did, and get into the realms of the telepathic knowing, as you were just speaking of, and the teleportation as well. So aligning yourself on the synchronometer with natural time is vitally important. And when we talk about the Olmec presence, of course, we talk about a lot of cosmic, galactic, and space things, because as you look at a lot of the structures, when you look at the pyramids all throughout the world that begin with the newborns or the messengers, which became known as the Olmecs, you see them wearing a lot of spacesuits. You see them having a lot of large earplugs and spacesuits, space uniforms, all throughout Mesopotamia, Tamaray, or what is known as Kemet today. You see a lot of that in Nubia, Ethiopia, all throughout Central America, the Easter Islands, all up in Europe, all throughout the world, really. But of course, it's something that has been kind of suppressed. It hasn't really been talked about because most of it is too old for the modern world to comprehend or ascertain. So they have to have like lower level references, like the Mayans, the Aztecs, or the Incas, and the later dynasties or different things concerning the Cometan empires. Anything prior to that, when you get back before the continental drift, it becomes like very blurry for a lot of people to really understand or have that knowledge and data. So they are into more of the fragmented, watered down information. So beginning with natural time, it's just allowing you to move into a space of understanding where you are for real, rather than the Mayan or the illusion of the time that you're in. So we want to bring some clarity to that and show how we connect to all of these things on the planet from a cosmic aspect, from the three worlds as we refer to them, all for the axis mundi. You have three worlds. Of course, you have the galactic or the cosmic world or the world of the heavens, which is actually 13 heavens, and then you have the terrestrial plane, which is what they refer to as the earth world or the earth plane, and then you have the underworld. So it's three worlds that we are dealing with, and it's three brains that we're dealing with at this particular time. So getting the full scope of everything from the three brains, the three worlds, and the three suns is vitally important for us as we're traveling into the new dimensional space of time.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because I guess Brother Jerry and Sister Sandra was talking earlier about that shift that you speak to right now, but also they said something about the indigo and the crystal children. I think that you're aware of that too, and what energy comes from what we realize our gifts are, because you have a direct lineage to the Olmecs. It's not like you're just a researcher and you're a scholar and you're just speaking to your scholarly achievements. Your connection to the Olmec presence is bloodline and lineage through your loins and loins of your ancestors. So that's something that's rare, that one knows that, because a lot of us have that connection but don't know it, or maybe even don't want to even do the research to find out because it's been suppressed so long. So talk about your specific connection to that, in that you can tie your ancestry to that, because again, we had a discussion last time we spoke that the African presence was our original presence, is really the mainstay of our discussion surrounding our cultural customs and our connection to geographical location, i.e. Africa as a continent. What you maintain, as you talk about the Mayans, and now we're talking about the Central America, which of course Brother Jerry spoke to a little while ago about, the power of where we are relative to things that have happened relative to pyramids, building, and step pyramids. But talk about your direct lineage, that you can offset some of the conversation that says that we all came from, as African people, from the continent of Africa. And your Olmec presence is something that is not necessarily driven from a geographical location.
Oh, okay.
That's a lot, right? I'm not, I just couldn't get out the question. I couldn't find the question mark, so I had to keep talking. But,
okay. Yeah. Well, when it comes to lineage, bloodline, and genetic blueprint, you have to begin with that first before you start declaring things about a particular location on the planet. Like, of course, when you get back into the before everything was separated or divided, you get into more of the interesting things, or the more authentic things that we have basically known to take for granted. And then, we start to deal with reference points like slavery as the reference point. And, we all came from Africa, and we showed up on slave ships in 1555, which of course is not true. It is something that has been passed down. It has been given to us. It's been thrown to us. Of course, a lie regardless.
So you're saying there was no Ma'afa, there was no slave trade, there was no kidnapping of us, from a land called Africa, and we were brought here to work the land over some period. That's not a truth, or is it not an absolute truth? There's the truth that there are, and there were those who were kidnapped, but yet not all of us. Which one are you saying, that it didn't happen at all, or it happened in an isolated area and with an isolated group of people? Well,
yeah, actually, it happened. It just didn't happen the way that they said it. It happened differently. And, of course, even the way that the story was told, it was impossible for it to take place based upon the things that they would have had to provide it, in order for us to be able to survive, to be able to live, all of us being on slave ships and on top of each other, and we have to go to the bathroom, all the feces and everything as we're traveling these long distances. They have to feed us in order to travel the length of time they said that it took. They would have to feed us. So when they feed you, of course, the food is going to come out and it's going to go somewhere, and it's no way that we can survive like what they had laid out to us. We'll get into that, in another moment. But more importantly, there were certain slave trades that took place from different places, but it was done in a different sense. It was done more from an economic aspect of things, not how they tell the story today. One of the major slave trades were through a West Indian corporation that actually went bankrupt. It began with the with the Dutch and the Portuguese Jews, and it was a slave trade from what they referred to as Africa to Brazil and over into the Caribbean, and that was done as a like trafficking of human cargo. What they use today, when you talk about people being sovereign or people being trafficked as debt slaves off of a birth certificate, because prior to 1913, the only people that had birth certificates were black people, because they were using a birth certificate as what they referred to as a certificate of manifest. And prior to that, we were the only people that had those certificates. And after the collapse of the fiction establishment of this economy, in 1933, of course, they decided that everybody could be pretty much traded, and they decided that everybody needed birth certificates, and they started trafficking everybody on the planet as human cargo, coming out of
everybody, as in everybody in terms of any quote race groups, or it was just relegated to African, or if you will, melanated people?
Oh, everybody on the planet, like the way that the system operates and functions today. Like everybody that is born into the fiction establishment or the system of this particular government, when they give you, this birth certificate and the Social Security card and all that stuff, all of that is basically a corporate entity that was created by the government, and you're being trafficked as human cargo, which is why they have what is called a census. Every 10 years they do a census, because you're being trafficked as human cargo from the same location that began much of what they refer to as the slave trade, which goes back to Europe. And they have to report the files. They have to count everybody, which is why they always do a census every 10 years. They have to count everybody within the household, and they have to fill out all of these forms so they can send and report it back to the Crown, based upon the people being what they refer to as human resources. So the people that are walking around with all of these different fiction IDs and credentials are referred to as human resources. They are commodities. They are slaves. They are actually being traded on the market through the Federal Reserve. Even through the court systems. That's why when like if you get arrested, they make you sign a bond. And it's two types of bonds that they deal with. They deal with an appearance bond, and then they deal with a personal recognizance bond. But the ones who deal with a personal recognizance bond are the people who are pretty much the autonomous, the sovereign, or the creditors. And the people who deal with the appearance bond are the people that are considered to be debtors. Because bonds are just, instruments that are used by banks. So you have bonds, notes, and certificates. And a birth certificate is a certificate, just like a bank guarantee or a government guarantee from the U.S. government, a bank, a note, or a certificate. And it's done, and you're being trafficked in that way throughout this country as a slave under that fiction system. So that, in a sense, they didn't really give you the fullness of what the slave trade actually was and how people were actually being traded and sold as slaves and all of that thing. So that's another pretty much a misnomer when you talk about that. And as you speak about the locations on the planet, we didn't just come from one location. We were everywhere on the planet, and that's being validated even throughout, the oceans and stuff that has the things that have sunk under the water, become sunken archipelagos throughout the planet. Are much older than the stuff that we see on the surface at present. When you start talking about Atlantis or Atlan, Utla, Amul, Lemuria, Eridu, a lot of the empires that were pretty much forgotten about, they don't reside in Africa. A lot of the Nubun or the Olmec sciences is based around the cosmos, the underworld, and this planet and all these different territories that were sacred empires and kingdoms that are older than all of the stuff that we refer to on the surface.
So that means that it it didn't start in one location. That is Africa, and it all, even though, as you stated there, we were all over. But did it, as it is reported largely, and also from some of our most notable scholars, who have well established in our community and very respected in their work, and have provided what we feel is the operations of information that substantiates, if you will, that we were from one place. You're saying that? Are you saying that it didn't all start in one place? That we were all over the place?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that we didn't start in one territory or one location, and prior to the continental drift, because even when you look at the records, if you can read the Lagu or the language of the newborns or the Olmecs, when you look at the tablets, and we still have that language sacred throughout our dynasty and our family, and it's still undeciphered by the public policy or the fiction establishment, and it's for a reason. But the thing is, a lot of the tablets from Isthmus or Tehuantepec, all of the tablets and the structures that they're seeing worldwide, they have a lot of the secrets, a lot of the records of how we got to this particular planet from other planets and other star systems. And we didn't, we were everywhere. And prior to, as I said before, the continental drift, we were already over here in the Americas prior to then. Before anything separated or divided, we were already over here, which is why we have.
So was there an over here if there was no divide? Wasn't it all one layer mass?
Exactly. There was no separation. In fact, if you were to take it back to 250,000 years, and scientists have done this already. They know that 250,000 years ago that where we are in what they refer to as the Americas right now was connected. This was the northern part of what is referred to as Africa, where we are right now. This is the northern part. In fact, it was also referred to as Egypt of the West at one time, or the Golden City known as Wahani prior to that. So you had these empires in this landmass, and the names for where we are right now, in particular, it was known as Utla, and for this particular part. And then the central part was known as Ulmen. That was the original language. And then the African part was referred to as Ganawa. And the newborns already had the language, the Lagu. It was not called Africa, it was called Ganawa. That was the language that they had, of course, which was the first language, which was known as cuneiform. It was broken down into different dialects later when other families and other tribes of people came into existence.
Okay. Well, and then we're going to talk about maybe whether or not they came, as it is stated, through us, or came from somewhere else, or they were created in a lab, or whatever the case may be. I have my guests in the studio. I want to see whether or not they are they're like a lie detector test. And so I give them so many names when they come in. They never even done themselves in a sense. But I want to give the balance of that discussion, because we want to talk more about that, because obviously you're giving up too much anyway, because you're supposed to be saving some of that for your presentation. So we don't want you to do the whole layout, but we thank you for the wealth of information that you give and the little that you give, because there's a whole lot to give, and you're not even touching the iceberg, tip of the iceberg of that, because we're shifting, right? Because now it's a shifting inevitability, that we have to deal with. Brother Jerry, what are you hearing? And no, Jerry, hold up before you say anything. I know this is going to be difficult for you, but hold up.
Okay, thank you.
Let me go to the mother, because the mother would know if this is one of our lion children or one of our crystal children. Which one do you?
Before he said that he had a connection to the Olmec, I picked up that he was somewhat of a timekeeper. That's the best way that I could describe it. Somewhat gathering, in the sense of what he's doing now, is what he has done before. So this is not something that's, new to him. And with all respect due, I think what most of us have to be careful with the information is awesome, and it's information that breaks the old illusion of what things was.
Which really can hurt a lot of people's feelings.
Yeah, if you're hurt,
So
then
be it.
you just. I'm not saying that. You know what it is. When you look at it all, the informations look different, but they're somewhat all the same. You just have to kind of be careful. Not be careful. Just pay attention to how you're looking at it. But once all of this is said, where do you go with it? That's where it is. You can't get caught into all this happen, because you need to move forward and raise your vibration and come into
it's
yourself.
It's grace we're getting, because we get a chance to not have excuses for staying stuck in the monotony of things, right, Brother Jerry?
Right. The thing is, this too, is that what I find interesting is when you do research in anything, what you find is that the further back you go, the more truth you uncover. It's like a detective. A detective becomes upon a scene, and if it's a murder scene, so to speak, the first thing he wants to know is, he doesn't move forward. He can't move forward because there's nowhere forward to go. He has to say, who was the last person to see this person alive? And then from there, he'll start going back. And the further back he goes, the more pieces of the puzzle he's going to put together. And then once he gets all those pieces of the puzzle together, he said, now I can now begin to move forward because I have all the instant information. Right. And that's what this brother here is doing. And interestingly enough, I've often asked the question to certain people in the religious arena, and I'm not going to get into too much detail. I said, if Adam and Eve, as you choose to call them, were the first two people on the planet, then where did all the other blood types come from?
Yeah, bloodlines, yeah.
Yeah, I mean blood types, not lines.
Blood types, okay.
A, B, C, like everybody's just type A, type B, B plus, A plus, A plus. Like if they were the same, right? If they were the same two people, they would only have two blood types, if any at all, maybe one, if they share the same thing. So how can you explain the other blood types of all individuals on this planet if there was not more than other people who were here before them, after them, during that time, as well as visitors from other places.
Right. So because it dispels the myth of the so-called origins of complete, total populations coming from two of these mythical characters they call Adam and Eve. Right. And of course, that was our brother King Esnab is also really, truly laying out for us, is that you can have you can draw, if you will, a clear connection to our origins beyond what we now know to be Africa. And now this is not to negate Africa as a place or location that now is being utilized, but it also explains some of the large major dysfunctions in Africa that we now see as being exploited and colonized and raped and ravaged and depleted of its natural resources. But not to mention what we know to have happened over here, because there's no parts of the planet that's not rich in minerals, and so and King Esnab, you can also probably attest to the fact that that we negate a lot of the same amount of riches and minerals and golds and diamonds that are current here in these parts, as they call it, the Americas, as it is in the African region, right?
Oh, of course, it's a variety of resources on this soil as well, and that's what we dealt with. We dealt with a lot of commodities and resources, and that was what we referred to as, that's God's money pretty much, and everything else is fiat. It's fiat currency, and in essence, our people will have to pretty much begin to shift back into the resources of the planet, not just as a currency, but for healing purposes as well, and other things, minerals, levels of minerals, and different things that we use them for in our development of building pyramids and structures, and things we melted down and we were drinking, such as gold and silver and different things that we.
Okay. So I say we were drinking gold and silver. We wasn't just wearing it on our neck and on our wrist. We were actually drinking it, internalizing it as colloidal.
Colloidal silver.
Colloidal. Colloidal silver is good, and gold as well, like monatomic gold. We put it in different forms. It can be in solid, liquid, or gas, pretty much like water. It has vast minerals in it for our frequency and our resonance, in particular our brain. That's one of the reasons why a lot of our people like to have gold in their mouth because it's a genetic thing. Most people don't know why they like gold. They had an affinity for gold, and why we utilize gold the way that we did. And
So it's not just for the bling.
exactly, it wasn't just for that. You know, that was also a part of the culture, of course, being royal and noble,
Regal.
noble bloodlines and things like that. We had a lot of resources, precious metals, and we wore some things based upon what some of our ancestors did. And we started wearing it, like when you see like Mr. T, like when you see what they call Mr. Turner, Mr. T, he get that from the newborn stories, like wearing a lot of gold. He got a lot of that from his family in Central America, and even the wearing of the mohawk, of course, that came from the Olmecs as well.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So, Brother Jerry, who is this brother on the phone, man?
God.
Who is this brother? Sister
this-
Sandra?
Go ahead,
No,
Jerry.
this brother is like, this is not his first time being here. This brother here has been
You mean on map time? That's true. I can tell you that. No, but seriously, you mean on the planet?
Yeah, on this planet, right? He's from another dimension. To tell you the truth, he's not really from this planet, but he has come here through the genetics of the Olmecs to give information to people, to inform us of things that we need to know and have forgotten. And I have to commend the brother. He's doing a great job. And what I see for him too, I'll tell you this, and just watch your back, if you know what I mean.
Overstand.
Watch your back, because there are some people who are close to you that really don't like you. I'll just try to...
Hey, you got I already understand exactly what you're saying. I
Okay.
deal with that all the time.
I know you do, but be careful, watch your back, because remember this here is this saying is that a friend is an enemy you can't see.
Right.
Okay, I'll give you that word to watch that, because with what you're doing, you're creating a disturbance, as they say, like you're creating a tremor in the force, like the Star Wars analogy. And because you're creating this here tremor, you're really upsetting a lot of people, because there are certain people who does not want this outformation, I'll call it, to come out.
Exactly.
And you're the vehicle. But one thing I will also tell you this as well is that you are divinely protected. You have divine protection.
Yeah. Mama, see, Mama's gonna tell him that. So, mother, go ahead and get the balance there, mother.
Yeah, I'm telling Jerry to get out my head.
Well, I mean, y'all in the same bed, so you can't get out your head.
Yeah.
2, 3,
I was
4.
about to tell you that. As long as you do, you must always come from the heart space.
Right.
And as long as you
Guided
come
by
from
the
that
heart, yeah.
space, nobody's going to be killed. Nobody's going to do anything. The planet has to get to where it's going to go. And those of us who came to do certain things, we're going to be able to do it. What I picked up from you, and don't take this insulting in any way, there's a certain level of passiveness, and it goes back. So you need to bring a little more warrior spirit forward, because in your past life and dealing with a lot of this stuff, you had a lot of aggravation, trying to get people to get the gist of what you're saying.
Right.
So
Yeah,
you left some of that energy, because it's kind of like, you're tired, but this time you have to complete it. So get a little more warrior spirit going.
Let me just tell you, you haven't heard of it. Trust me, he's just on map time talking like that.
Oh, okay.
But
So you got the warrior spirit
he
then.
does, yeah. Very much
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah.
the sword.
But
Sword
you're
of
protected.
truth,
Yeah, but Esnab, well, we as you well know, we're in our marathon WRFG. We do that seasonally and periodically. We have to raise funds to keep the station going.
Right.
And you know that is important, because obviously you and I have been connected for some time now, and I think it's oftentimes people just really take for granted the access, as they're talking about in terms of your work, and the brother said earlier about my work, and it's that that people take for granted that this is always going to be just so available, and so obtainable, because all we got to do is just get up, turn the radio on, and just walk away, and say very reptilian like, there's no real connection. Talk about what your understanding of the level of reciprocity when it comes to supporting venues such as these, and even go so far as to say venues as you are a venue in itself, what is the importance, and why does it benefit us, to make sure that we sustain it, even if we have to be through fiat?
Or why is it important to sustain it?
Yeah.
Well, it's vitally important because it's a vehicle for us to get the information and outformation, and which will allow us to be calibrated to the new paradigm of a variety of ways. Because you know how information or outformation travels, it comes in through a variety of ways. And having RFG as a venue or a platform that's pretty much global at present now, having that is vital, because people have become accustomed to RFG and being able to tap into it and get the type of knowledge, wisdom, and data that we are laying down by way of our ancestors in the universe. And it's vitally important for us, because everybody have portals, galactic activation portals and gateways by way of their people and their heroes and things like that in their communities, in their culture. And we have to have the same thing for ourselves, in particular our children. We need to provide this information or affirmation to them so they can get back into themselves, their story, and their time reference. And that's what we need that. So RFG is vitally important to us, because we don't really have any other venues at present, which operates at this degree for us in a variety of places around the planet Earth. So we need something such as this. And as you were talking about the fiat, however it is, it has to be done. It's very necessary for us to be able to do this, or we will have to create other means or other ways of doing it. However, it's not really broke, so we don't need to try to fix it. Exactly.
Right. It's already been established, and we can appreciate, that wisdom. Brother Jerry, as we talk about brothers such as the brother online, the royalty that they bring into their sense of purpose, and and as you said earlier about even me understanding the importance of maintaining and focusing on my purpose, and of course correlating it to what our brother just shared with us, and obviously, the suppressing of it, as you say, boxing it up, trying to be very pensive about bringing it out. Sister just talked about the fact that it has to be more passion, that shows that, that you're fearless about it. You're not, dealing with any threat of violence or threat of what we now know to be what has been traditional, which is how they have somewhat thwarted some of the efforts by those who are warrior energies. But as we know, as we've seen and watched the tragic death of Brother Malcolm, of Brother Martin, and others who have been persecuted and prosecuted, Brother Garvey, and all those, who came to give us an example of what not to do, if you will. The whole martyr mentality or the martyr syndrome is not something that we are now moving into in this shift. Is that right, Mother?
That time period is over. Have no fear. It would be such a cruel joke played on us by the spirit world that you're willing to stand up and do your work and then to be persecuted. It's just a different era of time. So we go without fear and we'll be fine.
So, Jerry, I know you only can but agree.
I will certainly agree.
You better.
All right, you better. Right, exactly. We know it's good for them. 404-523-8989. So the event happening this strong, Brother Esnab, is on what days?
It's happening on the 23rd, the 24th, and the 25th.
And do you have the venue location?
Not confirmation on it. However, I think it's the.
I think it's at Dr. Andal's place.
Dr. Ando's place
at the North Scale, the North Scale Institute.
Yeah, the North Scale Institute. I think that's the location that it's going to be. However, I still must get confirmation on that by Sister Tassili.
And she called us earlier and wasn't able to get through. We was in the midst of a deep conversation, but I do know the North Scale Institute is going to happen this weekend. She's also facilitating the Kundalini Yoga at the time, isn't it? Is she not?
Yeah, that's affirmative from what she told us on the prior show we did last Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just want to only say thank you for the words and the wisdom and the power that you bring. Of course, we're going to have long, extensive conversations. I know that you also, and I don't know if y'all picked this up, but he's also a recording artist. And he brings a lot of what we hear, and he puts it into lyrical rhythms that we know we call the music. Mm-hmm. And Mom, you pick it up? Mom, you pick that up?
No, I didn't pick that up.
Yeah.
And if we don't, we say we don't.
Right, there you go.
Yeah.
But that's what he does also, and of course we'll be sharing some of that as well. But that's the well-roundedness of getting the message out through any medium that you can, and also reaching certain generations. Because obviously some of us got to have it in music and got to have a beat. We got to make them bounce, y'all.
Whatever it takes, whatever it takes to get the message across.
I mean, many of your rappers are major indigo kids.
Right.
People look at them and, granted, some of the lyrics, doesn't need to be, but those are some very powerful kids that just don't know who they are. So they're channeling the information in a different way, and you're channeling it in the way that it should be channeled. So once they get that understanding of themselves, including someone like Lil Wayne. Someone
Jerry,
might look at Lil Wayne
Jerry,
as being silly.
Tell them before they call what they need to do, though, because they're going to call up, let them know that let them know what they require.
First I'm going to ask them if he won't give a pledge.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, so you were saying something that...
I mean, even someone like Lil Wayne, that's a god, but nobody would think that way of, that's an indigo. Mm-hmm. Many of them are, but they didn't, no one told them who they were. So the energy has to come out, but it doesn't always come out in the way that it has to. But somewhere along the way, they'll figure it out and they'll get it. And I wanted to share something with you, too. A few years ago, I had an experience where I came in contact with the people, those statues on Easter Island, mm-hmm. that they were going on a spaceship.
Oh, okay.
And it's amazing because they walked real robotically. So I haven't looked into it. I just went on after saw it went on and whatever. But I'm wondering, were they robots or why did they walk that way? But that I saw them as clear as ever.
So maybe they were walking in a soldier formation.
It was like
and
it was other beings.
Mm-hmm.
They were like the last one. It's a long line of people,
mm-hmm.
and they were the last one that was going on the ship.
Mm.
And it's somewhere where the grass had once been really high, but it's dried up, and the ship was just there waiting on everybody to get on.
And the kind of ship was, do you recall, you have a good vision?
What people would consider spaceships or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like a bystander.
Okay.
Just standing by.
Observing it, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. The many of those that are in Easter Island, it's a combination of what was known as the Nubun and the Sunanins. And another name for the Sunanins were Turos, what they call coneheads.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that you see with the elongated heads with the psychic powers and psychic abilities. That's why when you look at a lot of the statues, you look at and you see they have these elongated heads because they had a different chromosome structure than what was on this planet. In fact, their chromosome structure was so different that it created what became known as Down syndrome in what they refer to as the Chinese, who were known as the Chu people. And of course, you see their head is pretty elongated, and they was responsible for Down syndrome because they had an advanced, more sophisticated chromosome structure than the human 46 chromosome strand. So the defects occurred not because they were deformed. It is just that chromosome structure was so different with their elongated heads and their advanced, more sophisticated genes. And the crafts that were there, of course, those were newborn ships, spacecrafts in Easter Island, and most of the people still don't know that these were Nubun people or Olmec people mixed with the Turos, which gave birth to the Chinese. And so that's when you get into the different blood type. As we speak about the blood type, of course, the original is the O blood, which is the universal blood, blood of the universe. And then you have the A blood, which is why the Chinese, majority of them have A blood, because their strand was downgraded. Is a downgrade of the strand, and from the A blood, you get the B blood, which was much later, and then all the other blood types, AB combinations. Those are the blood types that have what is referred to as anti-generators in them. They have different antigens in them as like somewhat defense mechanisms. And the original blood, of course, is the blood that can go into any animal, any species on the planet, which is O. However, it doesn't accept any other blood type because of the genetic pattern in the blood, and it doesn't have any anti-generators in it. It'll just naturally reject anything that doesn't belong to its galactic mitochondria center. And as we talk about the O blood, and you talk about because that's the spiral and circle that Wanique was speaking in reference to when you talk about the cycles of time, and you got the circle beginning and end. That's what the O blood is really about and what it represents through our women in particular. And that particular strand or genetic mitochondria chart was only laid out in one race of people, which of course was our women who were here before all of us, and we are the offspring of them. And as we talk about the offsprings of the women, it could get kind of deep with that particular subject. However, just that the mitochondria and the way that it was coded, or the genetic chart that was given to the women, our women, with the power to give birth, it was done in the cycles of 9, which is what they mean by the 9 months of gestation, which is really a year, a full year anyway, because 9 months is a year, not 12 and all the stuff that they have at present. And the 9 principles, like the 9 principles from the beginning of creation to the end of the universe, is in the black woman, and a lot of that has been pretty much shut down in this particular time, which is why you have a solar plexus issue with the womb of the women today, because it has to do from the lunar into the solar. It's a solar plexus issue, not just a food issue like a lot of people think. It has to do with the solar plexus because the women were originally solar energy, solar deities, birth out of the black hole. And that is something that most people are not clear about, as well, as we're going into the binary system, and the female body is shifting into the dimension of the solar energy, is what y'all utilized prior to this moon cycle, or the 13 phases, the 28-day cycle. That was a later downgrade of y'all, because the solar energy, it was 20 solar cycles, and it was a completely different cycle for y'all, and that's a whole nother discussion there.
Can I say something? This is really amazing what you're saying, because both Jerry and I, we know when certain truth is being said, our bodies begin to vibrate. And as you're speaking about the women and the solar plex, my body started to vibrate. And it's ironic that when we do chakra balancing on people, some of the main places that are blocked are the solar plexus in women most of the time, and guarantee the throat chakras.
Oh, for sure. And
so that gives a really great insight into,
as to the why,
and the creativity, as to why.
Exactly, and that's these are the crown jewels that are vitally important as we're moving, and for our women to understand, that the birth canal, what it is, the creation, the lifelines, the life cycles, and how they are affecting a lot of things, on the planet as well. Not being aware of that, what's really going on with them. So, the reason for it being a chemical imbalance is due to the reptilian aspect of things, when it was a falling into emotion for the reptilian or the serpent, as they talk about that even from the Garden of Eden, when they talk about the serpent, which was a draconian. We know that that was a Draco, a draconian, because, it wasn't no snake just showing up, just talking, because snakes don't have larynx other than reptilians. The reptilians, they had the larynx, and they was one talking. It's like, there was no snake that's crawling on the ground that was talking to a woman.
Mm-hmm.
It was a draconian that did certain things. It was a manipulation process that took place by way of the feminine principle, and it was to get the seed. And then after that particular incident took place, that's when the lunar energy, or what is referred to as the lunatic energy, took control of the feminine essence, or the feminine energy, away from the solar. Because prior to that, it was 20 solar cycles, and it was mainly women on this particular planet anyway, before it was a downgrade or a defect process that took place in between, us and our women, because there was no reason to have men on this planet at one time, because it was a straight female planet. It was all women. It was divine feminine.
Imagine that.
It was no, and the only reason that it was decided to create a defect, because the soul part, the solar plexus, that was the counterpart of the male, because the male sperm, or the real gods or the deities or the newborn, they have the soul. They carry the soul in the sperm of the black seed, and that was given to us by way of y'all, because of your falling into emotions to the reptilian, and then that took control of the womb instead of the solar cycle. So you needed a counterpart of the masculine side to balance you out, so it would never happen again. And that's why we are offsprings of y'all. With 2.8% less genetic material. Our bodies are women bodies. That's why we have undeveloped breasts. That's why we don't have a womb. We are our chromosome structure is, of course, X, Y. Woman is full double X, because they are the full or complete being in terms of the physiological makeup, the anatomical structure, and our bodies is their body with 2.8% less genetic material, and we were given the soul part, the solar part, or what they refer to as the sun god part, after certain things took place. And even when you get into the original structures of the cosmology, or the astronomy, or the astrology, or the Dendera, or even if you go on the Kemet or Tamaray, you notice, like, when you see what they refer to as Virgo, the Virgin, which comes after Leo, the lion, or what they refer to as Ra, or Amun Re, or that sun, or that solar deity, and then you see it goes to the woman. The woman comes out of that solar energy, comes out of the sun cycle, and it was a time when that was how y'all created entities by solar energy. It was a point where y'all could just go outside and lay down on the beach, and be able to suck up the energy from the sun and reproduce another child, a female, of course. No males at that particular time. And understanding that, like, what happened with your communication in between all of the women on the planet and your solar connection to the sun, just like the black hole in the galaxy is, it was birthed basically by a sun. It was called Saturn Arena, and it was a particular sun that exploded. It exploded outward, and it created a black hole, or a time warp in space. And that energy was the original feminine energy, which is why the sun, like we talk about the sun, but this planet, it's the nurturer, it's the mother, and the original name was Ninti Yawon, like even the day, what they call Sunday. The original name for that day was called Ninti Yawon, which is a female, which has to deal with the genes and the blood. When you say Nin and T, that means gene and blood of the womb. Particular womb, or they refer to it as the Hunab Ku, from outside of this particular dimension, or the 18th galaxy, or going into the 19th galaxy. But this this is vitally important for us to understand why these things are happening with our women today, because they've been far removed from the solar energy, which stimulates life on the entire planet, which is why, when there's no sun, everything in nature dies. Like, the moon is not controlling anything. It's not a feminine attribute. It's more of a masculine attribute, more aggressive and more reptilian-based than anything, because it doesn't stimulate life. When the sun comes out, that's when the grass grows, the trees grow, everything blossoms into nature because of the solar energy. It's the mother, it's the nurturing aspect of life, which our women have been removed from because they've become more aggressive, reptilian, territorial, and emotional, which deals with two brains. One, the reptilian brain or the Homosaurus brain, and then the limbic brain.
Okay, let's slow down. Because that's the point. 404-523-8989. This is WRFG Atlanta, listener-sponsored and supported community radio. And as you hear the voice of King X Nash, Shaquan L. Ray of the Olmec Empire. And we need to get you to call up to support the community radio station, but your pledge of allegiance to us through your monetary contributions. Give us a call, 404-523-8989. We can hear more of that, or we can also give our in-studio guests the opportunity to give you what they call, a not even comprehensive, because our comprehensive reading we're giving for what? We say 89, what did we say, Mama, that 89:30 we're going to give a full reading?
Yeah. And for the 120 reading a dream catcher and
a pendulum. And a pendulum. You get a dream catcher and a pendulum and a reading. If you pledge at $120 on the credit card, you get that. But now, this is something. Now, you hear all this information that's coming out of our online guests, our studio guests as well. You hear King S. Nash speaking truth to power about the wisdom of our ancient beginnings. And, you can't get this anywhere. And so if you're going to call up, you have to, in a sense, show that you have an appreciation for what you're hearing, and not attempt to just, again, not show that there's a reciprocal relationship happening with us providing information as we have been quite consistently for 37 years. I see our brother Jerry, when he answers the phone and he tells you that, this is your purpose for calling, you have to provide a pledge, y'all clam up. What is that, brother Jerry?
They said I'll call.
I don't know.
Someone said I'll call back.
That's what we get. Like, they say, well, do I got to do it now? Yeah, you got to do it now. I mean, now is it? And now we live in it now, don't we? So especially now, yeah, of course. Well, okay, can I do it online? I tell you what, dude. Whatever's clever.
But people fall into categories, unfortunately, and some people are looking for a quick fix. The ones that are sincere, they'll pause and give a pledge. The ones that are looking for a quick fix, they said, I'll call back.
Again, those that realize the value of what this station has to offer are going to be the ones that's going to be sincere, is going to give from their heart, and say, yeah, I'm going to call and I'm going to make a pledge. And that's all we're asking. We're not asking you to, fly to the moon, or we're not asking you to do anything you wouldn't do for anybody else. If we were of another persuasion and asked you to give you money, you give it without a moment's hesitation. You give it, and we're not asking you to give no more than what you're getting out. You're getting out more than what you're giving. If you give, believe me, the station WRFG will provide for you more than. There's no monetary value you can put on it.
There's no value. I mean, you can't. Right. You can't even begin to equate that which we're giving with what you're going to be offering us, because you can never pay us for what we're doing here. And I say that not to try to minimize your pledge. Your pledge is very important to us. Yet that if you're talking about the whole idea of barter and exchange, where you get a product or a service, for a certain value or monetary amount. This is something that you can never really pay for, because obviously you get a chance to listen to it 24 hours, 7 days a week, 364 days a year, 1+ year. There's nothing, that, you can equate to having such an open access to. And you can never pledge at all and still get that.
Right. Right.
So it's like, you have to think about your sense of integrity, and we operate on the honor system. That that you're going to get the information. That we're choosing to be independent. We're choosing to have this type of forum, and we're doing it independently from the inception of the station when it was first founded by its founding members. Board members who decided they wanted to have a radio station that was independent, that had progressive content, had independent music or music that was underground or even localized. There was something that was really a real project. It was an experiment that says that we got to have something of our own. And they concluded with doing that by having what we now hear to know to be WRFG Radio. So give us a call, 445-238-8989, and pledge now.
Isn't it commercial free as well?
Yeah, it's non-commercial.
Yes, I'm saying so. You can hear music straight through conversation. There's no breaks where 1 minute from a word from our sponsor.
Right.
None of that. So therefore, it's you, the listeners,
are the sponsors.
Oh, that's it. This is your radio station. This is your radio station.
And do you feel as well as ownership enough to pay for that, to pay your dues?
What's it worth to you?
Station? Right. What's it worth? 445-238-8989. Give us a call here, and you can also, at this time, because we're the gift that keeps on giving, you get a chance to talk with our in-studio guests who are psychic readers, channelers. They also do what they call Reiki, which is the power of energy, moving energy through heat, through the hand, tarot readings. And also the offering for $89.30 pledge on credit card. You can get a comprehensive reading from them in person.
Yeah.
And also if you add $120 to that pledge, you can also get a pendulum as well as a dream catcher.
That's right.
So come on, 445-238-8989. Call now. Show your love and appreciation. You hear Brother King Esnab dropping this high science and talking about things that are basic unto our beginning. Yeah, I mean, come on. You can't get that anywhere, and you can't, and you won't. He won't have access to any other commercial medium or even any so-called black radio medium.
Yeah.
Without being challenged to the point where he's even negating the fact that Africa is something that we can call our home. And I think because it's not done from a judgmental, neglectful way. It's not saying that we're just totally trying to dismiss the presence or the reality of Africa, but it's giving us a broader perspective of who we are and not limiting us to that. So 445-238-8989. We'll be right back.
Still there.
like, well, it all started when I was just a little one in the dirty South. Man, we had so many in my mama's house, and you don't know about how I grew up in the South. My father had clout like the real Nino Brown in a small town.